Hello there, I hope you all doing good. Welcome to another video. Today we are going to solve a machine coding question from Hiver's interview. So if you see, this is a fairly recent interview question which was posted on LeetCode, asked on October 9, and we are going to solve the machine coding question from this. The only constraint for solving this question was we have to solve this within 30 minutes. And if I open this, you'll read the problem statement. So the problem statement read as we have to create circle games. We'll have a canvas where when we click, a circle will be generated with different colors, and then we'll have undo, redo and reset options. This is a classic mixture of DOM manipulation and DSA. So solving this problem will really help you improve your skills and prepare you for interviews. So let's read the problem statement thoroughly so that we understand what we have to do. Your task is to build a circle games in React.js. When a user clicks on the screen, a circle should appear at the click position. So where we are clicking, the circle should appear from that area in exact center. So the click should be in the center of the circle. This exercise is designed to test your React fundamental state management skill, problem solving approach and attention to detail. The game should support undo, redo and reset functionalities along with smooth animations. Draw a circle. A circle should appear wherever the user clicks on the board area. Each circle should have a random color between these: red, blue, green, orange and purple. Undo should remove the last action or should undo the last action. Redo should again do the last undo action, and reset should clear the board. Control state: disable undo when there is nothing to undo, disable redo when there is nothing to redo, and disable reset when the board is already empty. UI expectation: a board area, then control panel with these buttons. Button should be enabled, disabled dynamically, and the state should be updated according to the control state. And then we should have something like this: user clicks at this point, so this represents the X and Y axis on the screen, and the circle should appear like this. So wherever the user clicks on the board area, the circle should appear. Technical constraint is we should not be using any external state management libraries like Redux or anything else. Keep the code modular and readable. And then evaluation criteria is correctness, code quality, state management, UI UX polish, problem solving approach and time management. And we have to solve this is within 30 minutes. So let's try to solve this. Moving back to the platform, before jumping into the solutioning, I just want to give a heads up, like if you are preparing for your front-end interviews, you can check out my course on alpha.learnersbucket.com. I have around 475 front-end interview questions collected from the web. So you can see, like, I have different question sets from Atlassian, Coursera, Zepto, Meta, ThoughtSpot. The recent added is LiveSpace. I've added 4 questions in this. The most interesting one is designing the front end of restaurant or food ordering app. This is a system design question. And then there is a machine coding question as well. For Hiver, I have only 1 question. I'll add the remaining. So if you are preparing for your interviews, you can check out the course. You can filter out by the label you are appearing for, and then you can have the questions listed. It has almost everything that you need for your front-end interviews up until staff level. So do check it out. If you are preparing for your course, you get lifetime access to it once enrolled. Let me close this sidebar so that we have enough area to code. We are clear with the problem statement, so I'll hide the problem statement as well. And then let's expand this area, and now we should start coding. So first thing we'll do is we'll break the problem statement in 2 parts. In the first part, we'll handle the circle generation, where when we click on the board area, the circle is generated. And the second is handling the undo, redo and reset actions. So let's do that accordingly. Let me clear everything from here. I've removed everything. Let me remove the state as well, all these things. And then from the app.css also, I'll just clear everything. And I close the main file. we have only app.js and app.css. Now here, let's call this as a div, and inside this, let's name this as the wrapper, and we'll have the circle area. You can call it canvas or anything. Let's call this canvas only for better understanding. And inside this, we'll be generating the circle. And on the click of this, so on the click, we'll do generate circle. So anywhere, if you click on this canvas, a circle should be generated, and we'll have this function generate circle that will be invoked on the click. Now let's add some style to the canvas. So here I'll just say hash canvas, and then the width as 400 pixels, height as 400 pixels, border as 1 pixel solid. So we got our canvas here, and when you click on this canvas, we have to generate the circle. Now on the click, we get the click event. From the click event, we get the client X and client Y, which is the X and Y position of the screen where you have clicked. So X represents your left position on the screen, starting from here to where you have clicked. So X represents your left position. Y represents your top position, starting from the top, and if you have clicked somewhere, it will represent your top position. So left and top is what we get when we click somewhere. So client X and client Y is what we are going to use to calculate where we have to generate the circle. And to generate the circle, we have to use this random colors. So let me copy this from here to here, const colors, and then I'm going to define the constant diameter of the circle. So const diameter equals to 50. We'll be generating a 50 pixel circle on the click. It is extremely important to have the diameter defined. You'll see why as we code. And then we are also going to need a helper function to get a random color. So we are going to create a helper function to get a random number from 1 to the size of the colors array, so that we can get that random get that random number to pick the random color from this array. So let's define that function get random int, and this will take the min and the max range, and inside this we'll get the min and max value. For the min, we are going to have its ceiling value, just rounding off things, and then for the max we are going to have its flow value, and then we are going to return mat.floor, mat.random, and with that we are going to do a simple calculation of max minus min plus 1, and at the end we'll add the min. This is the most common way to get a random value between a range. I found this function on the web, so don't think too much about how this works. And then our sole logic is focusing on how to generate the circle. So on the click of this, we are going to get the client X and the client Y value from the event, and we are going to store that. So I'm going to create a state over here, const circles, and then set circles, and use state array. I'm going to use an array over here, array as a stack. So I'll be adding a new entries to it. You can use arrays flexibly in JavaScript. That's what I like about programming in JavaScript. So we don't have to worry too much about too many things. We can just simply create array and objects and get things work with it. And now from the event we have to get the client X. So client X and client Y, and we are going to get it from the event, and then we have to store the values. Before storing, I have to get the color as well. I'm fetching the color and storing it in the state to avoid changing the color when re-rendering happens. So it's better that I fetch the color and store it in the state so that it remains consistent whenever a new circle or a state update is happening. So color index get random int, and that will be from 1 to colors dot length, and then we are going to get the color. So from the colors we are going to have the color index -1. So we are getting the color index from 1 to the size of the colors array, but the array indexes work from 0. That's why I'm reducing a value 1 from that. And then finally we are going to set the circles. So there are previous value, and then we are just going to return the previous circles and add a new object with the id date dot now. So we are going to use the current timestamp as the id. It's simple, client X, client Y, and the color. And now we are going to use these values to generate the circle. So let's create a component circle that will accept the client X, client Y, and then the color, and we are going to generate a circle from this. So what I'm going to do is return we are going to return a span from this. So span, and then we are going to apply some styles. We are going to make the circle absolutely positioned on the canvas board. So position absolute, and then the top will be client X, and your left will be your top will be client Y, and your left will be client X, and then the width will be your diameter in pixels. Similarly, your height will be your diameter in pixels, and then border radius of, let's say, 50% to create the circle, and then the background color will be your color. And now let's render this. When we click, so inside this we are going to render the circles dot map e, and here we are going to render the circles component. It is circle only, right? Yeah, circle. The key will be the id, so key will be e dot id, and then we pass the rest of parameters as it is, so that on the click the circle should be generated. Another change that we need to do is we need to make the canvas position relative so that it can hold the absolute child inside this. Now let's see what happens when we click on the canvas area. So you see, if I click somewhere, apparently it is border radius. So if I'm clicking somewhere, the circle is displaced. It is being shifted by a certain margin. That is because we are not calculating the circle's position to its relative to its parent. So what you need to do is you need to create a reference const canvas ref and use ref here, and then apply this canvas ref to the canvas. So ref is canvas ref, And then we have to get the canvas position and do some calculation to decide the circle's top and left position within the canvas. So if canvas ref dot current, so only if the reference is created, inside this we are going to get the canvas top and left position. So const rectangle equals to canvas ref dot current get bounding client rect. So bounding client rect gives us the box model of the element. This will provide us the left and the top position, and from this we are going to calculate the values. So let me do the calculation. Client x equals to client x minus rectangle dot left. So we have to subtract or remove the value of where the canvas is positioned from the click position to align the circle, and then const client y equals to client y minus rectangle dot top, and then we have to pass this to client x and similarly to client y. And now if I click, you see that circle is generated, but it is still off by some margin. So to fix that, what you have to do is you have to reduce the size of you have to reduce the position of the top and left by considering the size of the circle. So what we are going to do is const top equals to client y minus radius. So we have to get the radius of the circle and we have to subtract that from the position. So const radius equals to diameter divided by 2, and then radius we have to subtract, and then similarly for the left position we have to subtract the radius, so that the circle is now generated from where we are clicking. So let me just remove this, and now it should accept the top and left, and now it should generate the circle from the pointer where we are clicking. See, if I click, it is generating the circle from the pointer where I am clicking. So the most tricky part of this question is generating this circle and keeping it bounded to the circle. So see, right now it goes beyond that, because when I'm clicking it is overlapping. So you can add overflow hidden to hide it, or you can keep it as it is, but that's not the concern. The major concern was generating the circle on the point where I'm clicking on the screen, and it is happening properly now. Let's move to the second part where we can handle the undo, redo and reset options. For that, let me create a new div and we'll give this as id action area, and inside this we'll have button with the undo action. So undo, redo and reset. Here let's on click of this we'll do on undo, on redo, and then on reset. And let's define these three functions. So const on undo, similarly we'll have the redo and the reset function. We got our buttons over here. Let's add some style to this. So hash action area display flex justify content center and give a gap of, let's say, 8 pixels. and then we'll have margin bottom of 20 pixels, some space. Now we got our button. On the click of these buttons, we have to do the undo and redo operation. So for undo, we have to remove the last circle that we have added to the circles, and we have to store it somewhere else. So what we are going to do is we are going to maintain a separate state. Let's call this as a stack, set stack. And again, I'm going to use an array as a stack over here. So on undo, we are going to remove the last added circle from the circles, and we are going to add it to stack. And when we do redo, we remove the last added value to the stack again to the circles. So that's how undo and redo operation will be handled with the help of two stacks. So on the undo, what we are going to do is we are going to get the last circle. So const last circle, and from the circles we are going to pop. So this will give us the last entry that we have added to the circles. Remember, while generating the circle, we are adding the new entry or the fresh entry at the end. That's why I'm using pop over here to get the last value. And then I'm going to set the stack. So I'm going to add this last circle, removing it from the circle stack to the redo stack or the temporary stack that we are maintaining. So I'm going to add that in the stack, and here I'm going to return the previous values, and I'll add a fresh one, the last circle. And finally, I'm going to update the circles also because we have removed the last value. So I'm just going to add a fresh list to this. So this will remove the last value, and then this will add a new array altogether with the remaining circles. Similarly, on the redo, we are going to do the same action. We are going to remove the last circle from the stack, and then here we are going to set the circles, and inside this we have the previous value and the last circle, and here finally we are going to update the stack to have the remaining stacks. And on the reset, we are going to clear the stack. So we are going to empty this, and then we are going to clear the circles as well. So let's store this, and now if you see, I've clicked 1, 2 and 3. I do undo, so last one is removed, undo, undo, and then again redo, redo and redo. It is generating undo, redo, undo, redo. So this is working fine, and if I reset, everything is removed. The final part is maintaining the button state. So let's reload this, because there is nothing to redo, and if I'm clicking on this, the app is crashing. So we have to maintain the state of these buttons, where we have to disable them if the respective action cannot be performed. So on here only we can have the values. So is reset disabled, and it will be disabled when the circles dot length equals to 0 and the stack dot length equals to 0. So if there is no action that can be performed, then the reset is disabled. Similarly, for the undo operation, is undo disabled if the circle length is 0, which means we cannot undo anything, so it should be disabled. And for the redo, is redo disabled. That's when if there is nothing in the temporary stack. So let's have this. Now disabled is undo disabled, and then here disabled when the redo is disabled. Let's save this and reload. So by default, all three are disabled because there is nothing on the canvas. When I click, see, undo and reset is enabled. When I do undo, then only redo is enabled. And if I do redo, redo is again disabled because there is nothing to redo anymore. So undo, undo, and now there is nothing to undo. So that's why undo is disabled. So everything is working as expected. And this is how you solve this problem. I hope you have enjoyed this video and learned something new. If you like this, please do share in your circle, in your networks, and do subscribe to the channel for more such interesting interview questions. Thank you for your time.